Welcome to the first crack at preview finals edition, brought to you by KFC FLG. First qualifying final, Adelaide Collingwood tomorrow night. We're firing up. We've got the revs happening because we hit top gear tomorrow with David King and Leigh Montagna, part of the call team. But first of all, how exciting. First week we had off and we're fresh and now we're back into it.
Yeah, can't wait. It's been a long time coming and the games Thursday, Friday night are going to be unbelievable.
It's been reviewed within an inch of their lives, these games, but we're going to do it again and try and have a little look at what we think's going to happen. But finals are a different beast. Yep. They really are, Joey, and we talk a lot about top 8 versus top 8 or top 9 this year versus top 9 because they were a fair margin clear of the rest of the competition. Now that it's serious, the travel involved, everyone's had their break, everyone's had their rest, health's a talking point, but finals are a completely different story.
Yeah, they are, and it's going to be hard to pick who's going to win any of these games because all the teams at their best, we know how good they are, so it's going to be fascinating to see how it unfolds.
Well, let's have a look at the ins and outs. So both teams made the 2 changes. So Michael Annie and Pedlar, Joey, for Adelaide. You like those two? Yeah,
2 good ins. I mean, Michael Annie, we know how crucial he is to the back line there with Worrell and Keane and the other boys. And Pedlar, I think, maybe set for Josh Dacos. A few weeks ago, they had Murphy, who basically played on Josh Dacos, nullified his influence. Pedlar's done a defensive role before, so we'll keep an eye out for that matchup.
And Collingwood, 2 players, limited games so far this season, Mason Cox and Will Parker. Let's touch on Mason Cox. Everyone's talking about the decision, and is it a Hail Mary, Kingy? Where do you sit?
Well, I think you've got to start with what you had in the team first. McStay wasn't getting the job done. So is it a bigger risk to go in with someone that you know has been underperforming for 6 to 8 weeks, or to say, no, we've got to cut the cord here. We've got to take a calculated risk and bring in Mason Cox. Has he done it before? Yes, a long time ago. So has he done it recently? No. But McStay's not getting it done. So I think Craig McCroda said, well, let's just assess this. Can Mason Cox tag Mark Keane?
Yeah.
Can he play on a Mark Keane and disrupt him enough to, 1, take away his intercept game, and if he hits the scoreboard, it's a bonus. The Frampton-type role of a couple of years ago that we look back at now with Harris Andrews and say was a masterstroke, is that why he's coming in?
He could do that, and I also think, and you've been big on it, Thilthorpe's influence in the ruck, and whether just going up against McStay, they were concerned that Adelaide might get a real advantage there, so maybe we know Cox will be more competitive than McStay when he does the second ruck work.
Well, it's a perfect segue into your first crack, Kingy, because Adelaide's defensive excellence you want to touch on.
Yeah, to win flags, you've got to have a great defensive setup, and whether that's a great back 6, 7 or 8 players or the team, the way they defend as a collective, it doesn't matter because this group, and realistically, they're a bunch of no-names at the start of the year. No one really could predict what Keane and Worrell has been able to do. They've gone without Murray for large chunks of the season, back in playing some solid footy, and Michael Annie back in only helps his group even further. But you've got to acknowledge what they've done against the very best teams in the competition. So we're only comparing the numbers against top 8 teams, those that are still there when the whips are cracking. So they're the number 1 team denying opposition score from any form of possession. So wherever they get the ball, it doesn't matter. They're able to gridlock, they're able to stand up behind the ball and intercept or disrupt. And the number 1 D50. Now I reckon that's a big tick going into any final series because the opposition are going to have their time.
Yep.
They're going to have little 5-minute windows throughout the course of the 120 minutes where they're on top. Collingwood are going to come at some stage and really challenge and charge at them, but they've got full confidence this back 6 can get it done, and the numbers endorse that.
Yeah, I like that because their defence has been so hard to play all year, and you're going to touch on Keane in a moment, but they've consolidated one of the best defensive systems in the competition, Joe, haven't they?
You have to be. You have to be able to defend your back 50. We've seen the numbers year after year. The premiership team has to hold up because you are, as you said, playing against the best opposition who are going to get good looks, and the best defences hold up.
I can make a case that Mark Keane's the best defender in the competition right now.
I knew you were going with something.
I know that he's not necessarily going to be reflected in all Australian teams and all those sorts of things, but what do you want from your big men? You want them to be able to stand tall in one-on-ones. I think he's lost 3 of 62 for the year. Unbelievable in terms of being strong enough when caught engaged in the physical battle, but his positioning is always first class. His intercept numbers through the roof, number 1 in the competition. So this here has to be recognised. That type of mark there, just brave to go back with the ball. Calm. Now, I'm not saying he's the most skillful player bringing the ball out the other way, but his positioning is first class. I'm not sure what more you want from your big man than this. This is why I think when we look at what the Kangaroos did with Aiden Core, just tagging him, just checking his run, just back shoulder, can Mason Cox do that and change the dynamic, just shift the dynamic of this back 6? Yeah. Because if they don't, we've seen the numbers against the best. 1-1. So you're not going to get through if you just put magnet to magnet. You've got to do something, and I think Craig McRae's got this in him. I think Collingwood have to gamble a little bit coming up against this set 7.
Oh, I love the fact you just said that. Is he going to play him from behind? Is he going to play him in front? Like, how do you play him? Because everyone's tried and given him front spot and he's won the contest. And he's not going to win Golden Fist every year because he actually wins his one-on-ones, Joey. So that's going to be the interesting challenge for Collingwood.
It will be. And what does Mark Keane want to get to, say, a Mycheck? And then if he does go to Mycheck and quells his influence, you're leaving a lot up to Mason Cox and Tim Membry to be able to help kick a score.
He destroyed Mycheck last time. Yeah. Mycheck was the 46th rated player on the ground. So he had 14 intercepts, Keane, last time they met. Craig McRae knows he has to do something about this man.
Yep, he's going to be the red jumper tomorrow night. Joey, your first crack, Collingwood. Are they going to defy history, finishing in 4th spot?
Well, they're going to need to if they want to win a premiership, because how's this for a stat, Dicko? No team has won the flag from 4th spot in 27 years. It's the kiss of death there. You don't want to be sitting in 4th spot. It's impossible to win. No one's done it since Adelaide in 1997. So they are going to have to defy history, Collingwood, to try and pull it off. And, well, it's going to start with trying to find a way to beat Adelaide in Adelaide. So we're going to try and make a case for how they can do it. How can they get past Adelaide? Because you just touched on those numbers, Adelaide defensively. And that's why, for me, I think this game is going to be an arm wrestle. It is going to be a low-scoring, dour affair, because Collingwood are also banking on their team defence. And when you take a look at the last 6 meetings, this is why it stacks up that it's going to be a low-scoring arm wrestle, because the average winning margin has been at 4 points average. And the scores for both teams in those 6 games have averaged around the 70-point margin. And there's no reason for me why this game will look any different. If it does, I think it favours Adelaide, absolutely. If it's an open game, I think Adelaide's forwards will be too powerful and they've probably got a bit too much firepower. So I think Collingwood definitely want to keep this game in tight. And I think maybe that's why Mason Cox comes in. They think, right, we want to play long down the line. We want to go to contest. And that's how Collingwood have built their game this year. Off the back of their controlled ball movement, they want to set the field, build it up, and then they want to play the forward half game and get their team defence going. And this is probably the point of difference for Collingwood that's probably hasn't been spoken enough about this year, why they've got so many wins, and it is their forward half game. They aren't the free-flowing scoring team off half-back of a couple of years ago. It's get the ball in their forward half, lock it in, set their team defence and win the ball back. And that's going to be the challenge, Dicko, because Adelaide have been one of the poorer teams this year at transitioning the ball. They're bottom 6 for transitioning the ball from their back half to inside 50. So I think this is how Collingwood will want the game to look. And they're going to try and do everything they can.
And it's onto the midfielders too. You're not bombing that into that Adelaide defence. So find those targets, find those lead-ups, because sides have had some success against Adelaide in their defence when they've hit that little lead-up.
And this is the number for the pie. So if they can score 30 points or more from forward half intercepts, they're 11-2 this year. If they don't get the forward half game going and can't score, they're about a 50-50 side. So we saw it against Adelaide when they had 71 entries. Now, that was, by the way, one of the 2 losses. They scored 33 points. But if you're going to get 70 looks, you're going to win more games than not. And I don't think they're going to get 70 looks again this game. But if they do get more than Adelaide and can keep the ball in their front half, Kingy, I think they're going to give themselves plenty of chances. And the more opportunities you get, something's going to bob up. And this was just some of the look of how Collingwood were able to deny Adelaide trying to switch the ball. You can see them up the top of screen. They take away those lateral kicks. They want this play. Collingwood aren't going to try and get in a leg race and play an open game of footy. They want to be able to keep it skinny, keep it on one side of the ground and win the ball. Like, this is good to get, as you're going to get from Adelaide, out of defensive 50. They take a contested mark. But watch how quickly Collingwood get into their formation. Look at these 4 or 5 Collingwood players, protect the corridor, keep them skinny, and then they're ready to pounce. This is the Pies at their best.
Adelaide had 56 opportunities to bring it out of the defensive 50 and only went coast to coast 6 times.
Yeah.
So you're right, you're spot on. And everyone's sort of thinking, well, how do Collingwood win? But this setup, this organisation, and it's led by their stars, how quickly they create these formations, these grids, and put enormous pressure on the Crows. They certainly can do it. There's evidence there.
Yeah, and it's just going to be whether the Crows can be able to sort of take their time, be composed and work their way through it. The Tools are going to play a massive role for Adelaide. Can they take contested marks and relieve the pressure and get it down their end of the field? But that's how I think the Pies could win this game and go over and ambush the Crows.
And history tells a bit of a tale on this one. So Frayne McRae, remember when you called him
Frayne,
the luckiest man, 11-1 in terms of tight finishes. Of the 7, they've won 3 this year.
Yeah, they've regressed back to the mean.
So there's been a bit of kryptonite
He's not
this year.
Frayne anymore.
Nah.
He's not Frayne.
He's Frayne.
Oh, he's Andy Dufresne. All right, Joey. HBF Health is your best player. Jordan De Goey, Mr. September. What have you got for us?
Yeah, well, they've timed him beautifully, haven't they? Yeah, you've been speaking about this all year, Kingy. You've got to get your best players in cherry-ripe condition. And Jordy De Goey, the last game we saw him, looked like he's back to his best with that power out of stoppage and running on top of the ground. And we know he's a finals performer. And I've just got some of the numbers to compare. His home and away footy, 160-odd games compared to his 12 finals where he's played there's one game there that I left out in 2019. He got injured in the first quarter. Did his hammy, didn't play the rest of the final series. But look at the difference there. His play rating, he's almost a 35% better player on the ratings in finals compared to home and away footy. So he's one guy that we know can have a big influence on this game.
Born to play finals.
Well, he's just such a difficult matchup, isn't he? I mean, he can go into the middle and rip, tear and bust at centre bounce. But he's more of a moments player in finals. He kicked those big goals. Was it against the West Coast?
Yeah, it was.
Massive.
Forward.
Against Schofield. I just think that he's such a difficult matchup. If you had to tag one, I mean, these teams are probably not really going to tag, so it's a hard one to... Maybe Peatling might go to some... Would you be looking at Jordan? Or
Peatling and Berry, they've got guys that can play defensive roles.
Would you be looking at him first? Or
No, I'd still have to stop the little champ. I think.
Is it a waste of time trying to tag Little Champ?
You've got to try and nullify. You can't let him run around and get 40 and kick 3.
Yeah, true. That's true. Yes.
Try and nullify Dacos, but I'd be keeping a close eye on De Goey.
Good start, boys. Having a look at the first qualifying final. Let's check in with Bernie Vince from PointsBet with his first crack for the weekend.
Thanks, guys. My first crack is September standouts, and I want to pay close attention to the Gary Ayres Award. Remembering this is voted on by the coaches for the best finals player. Now, 23 of the last 25 premiers have come from the top 3. So I've narrowed my focus to the top 3 teams and the big game players in those top 3 teams. As you can see there, Bailey Smith, Jordan Dawson, and last year's winner, Lockie Neal, some good value there at $19. But if you agree with me and you think the winner of the Gary Ayres Award will come from one of those 3, here at PointsBet, we've got a special market, and you can see there some good value at $4. You can find all those odds plus a whole heap more on the PointsBet app. Enjoy the footy.
Chances are you're about to lose. For free and confidential support, call the number on the screen or visit the website.
This September, like any before it, will be defined by moments. But this isn't like any September.
The battle is willing.
For the very first time, our call is coming to you in the month that matters most.
Big build up. They're trying to gang up here.
How's the drop steps and how's the confidence? And listen to the fans. Beautiful step. Great snap.
What a game of footy this is.
Fox Footy calling all the finals across the weekend. The best calls, the best coverage. All kicks off tomorrow night at 6:30 on Fox Footy. David King, let's talk about Geelong. They're playing Friday night and the River. How do we explain the River to our viewers?
Well, if you can see a river in front of you and a big rock in the middle, the big rock in the middle is the centre square.
Yep.
So Geelong players choose one side of the rock. If you're an onside runner, that's where they get their outnumber, and we'll show that in a moment. No one goes into the middle. They don't go into the corridor. Charge forward, run the fat side, and end up like a sliding wingman or a flanker type. So it sounds really basic, but when you see it, you can't stop seeing it. And this is how I think Chris Scott's brilliance comes across, because most teams want to guard the corridor. So they put numbers in the middle of the ground, or they want to guard the usable leading lanes. So they commit one player. One player is enough. All Geelong want is the outnumber. This is not going into the middle. So don't bother. It's almost a soft one-on-one here. So it's effectively Heaney versus Holmes. So he guards that leading lane, which is what a lot of teams like to do. Start to formulate your grid a little bit, soft one-on-one, as I said. Holmes knows where it's going. So his job is to get to this position here. That's already a 4-on-3. He's trying to make that a 5-on-3. If he's needed, he's not needed. He runs to the next one. We see Bailey Smith do this. We see Myers do this. We see Manor do this. And it's just one more player at that next destination. It sounds really simple because it is. So they don't bother, lining up in the middle of the ground for that short little 20-metre kick. They know where it's going. I don't know how many times we've seen this play, same side. So the forwards isolate that space, tease up, to bang, little tick leads. And the kicks do all the work. Now, eventually you have to bring this ball in slightly. If they've got someone to use, they'll take that. But it's not really turnover central. It's not really a ball that's going to hurt them. We know where this is going. How many times across the last 10 years have you seen Tomahawk just leading to that position there and take the uncontested mark? So it's the wide weaponry that gets you. So they don't bother charging through the middle, and if you're going to commit defenders in that area, they are going to be redundant.
And Joey, what about that? That's a good point he makes. So from a corridor coverage perspective, if you're coaching against that, what would you do?
If you're coaching against it, well, you've got to be aware of it, first of all. So you've got to start the hedge and maybe not protect the corridor as much as you will with other teams. But you've only got a week to train it. Geelong have been playing it all season long. It's predictable to them. Yep. They know the patterns they're running. They get the outnumber. All you want to do when you go to a contest is outnumber. You get that more often than not. And then you can also defend through it most of the time because teams are coming back into an outnumber of the opposition.
What a great luxury to have those two runners on either side. To be able to pick up the slack, get to contest, the outnumber and numerical advantage. But coming up against Brisbane, what are we expecting?
Well, they won that critical ball. That first ball that goes long and wide, and then they come straight back at them. Whether it's through corridor or back into a disorganised defence, they made them pay. So scores from turnover, 10 goals to 3. So this is really simple. So go. Win the ball, we've got to go. Now, we've talked a lot about Zorko, and he's a rarity in the AFL. But these next possessions here are at speed. There's 2 handballs there that get them at speed. Here, ball gets turned over. If they do bite something off, they want to switch there, bang, Wilmot's onto it. Ready to go, charge at them. So it's win that ball wing line or just wide of wing line.
That's Harris Andrews territory.
It is exactly here. So this is the ball that you're talking about. So they're the sorts of turnovers that they want. But it's one thing to get the turnover, Joey, but they will go straight. This is why I think Brisbane have so much joy against Geelong. They trust their back six to win it back or their high backs to win it back, and then they can almost pick Geelong apart a little bit. They do play a different sort of defence, and it can look unorganised on occasion.
Yeah, Brisbane are by far the best team in the competition at changing angles, changing lanes, and you've just spoken about what Geelong want. We've seen Geelong all year. How do they want it coming in? Straight lines. Tom Stewart gets in line with the footy, the other defenders, so they want straight line footy. If you can change angles on them, like Brisbane have done the last 3 times, that's how you can get the Cats.
Or go fast.
Yeah.
I think you'll see them go, we've got to go. Risk turning it over to get back to score against Geelong.
It's a good point, because the other thing the Cats defenders do is they tend to sit back. So if you can get that one in the corridor, then they have to press, and then we saw Brisbane get the outnumber and overlap over the top of the Geelong defence.
King, let's talk about Bailey Smith, because you just showed the vision there. His value, that game plan is right in his wheelhouse. His running ability, his ability to break lines, but we're upstairs, and I love this. We sit there and go, tell me a recruit that can do this, this, this and this. He's had an incredible year.
An amazing year. I mean, he's second favourite for the Brownlow, and he's playing in a team that could win the flag. I haven't seen a recruit that's done this for quite some time, and everyone will say, oh, but what about Jard and what about Dangerfield? No one's won a Brownlow and a flag in their first year. For pick 17.
That's the perfect season.
It's the perfect season. And what more do you want, Joey? I mean, just put a statue of the recruiting department out the front tomorrow if this happens. But I marvel at what this guy was able to do. Now, we isolated a camera onto him against Richmond a couple of weeks ago, and just watching it back, Joey, I was amazed, not at his work rate, but just his investment in the game. He's not a drifter at all. His concentration is fanatical. He just channeled into where the ball is and how he can get involved at all times. His communication is actually pretty good, and he's prepared to put his hand up if he makes a blue. Everything's at quality. They give him the ball whenever they can. Danger loves him. He got to him about 4 or 5 times during this game because he kept looking after him. But he's having, the AFL number 1 disposals, 31.6 on average. Number 2 in the comp for uncontested possessions. Number 10, top 10 in the comp for score involvements. He's been a phenomenal player for them.
It's been incredible. What he and Max Holmes have been able to do, the Dash brothers, but the way that, but even his tackling, like, it's underrated. He's a tackler too.
Yeah, he is.
He gets after them, and
that's the mistake there, Joey. So he just says, "Look, sorry guys, sorry, that's mine." And I think you like that.
That's the environment at Geelong too. You know what? Everyone embrace the mistakes, embrace who you are. He's having an incredible season, and you wouldn't be shocked at all if it just continues through the final series.
I know the boys will show more of that on Friday night, but I was blown away by the team-first mentality with everything that he was doing, and his work rate we talk a lot about, and you've coined them the Dash brothers, and that's spot on. But just his investment in team is something that hits you between the eyes.
Yeah, and I love watching Oppo hearts break as he runs past that gut-wrenching when you're absolutely exhausted. It's time for Thanks to Workday, Joey. Let's give Fremantle some love. They've had a pretty stellar season, but now they come into an exciting final.
Yeah, let's look at the elimination finals. And I think for Fremantle, this is their moment of truth, but I think they just need to trust their system. They need to trust what has got them to this point, because there has been a lot of noise about them this year. But when they actually sit back and take a look at why they should back themselves in, is They started shaky. They were zipping 2 to start the year. They got smacked by Geelong at home. They then lost to Sydney in round 2. But from that moment on, they've gone 16-5. That's the equal best record of any team in the competition. Their record against finals teams, their win percentage is the best in the competition. They've gone 5-2 in that time against top 8 teams. And they're the only side in the competition that have come from behind 5 times in fourth quarters. So this group does have the character and the resilience now to be able to back themselves in and trust what they've done all year to be able to continue in finals. And when you talk about their record in fourth quarters, and there it is, there the numbers about that three-quarter time come from behind, a big part of that has been what they've been able to do with the 2 rucks. And this is the perfect occasion for the 2 rucks this weekend because it's probably going to be wet in Perth, and they're coming up against Jared Witts, who you need to wear down. And this has been Fremantle's numbers since round 8. So that's when the 2 boys started playing together because Darcy missed the first few weeks. Jackson missed 3 weeks with a hammy. But from round 8 onwards, so you can see their clearance and points from clearance inside 50 differential, just AFL average. But what has been crucial has been their fourth quarters and what they've been able to do late in games. And that's where they've been able to wear teams down with the 2 rucks. And they were able to do that against Jared Witts. Last time they played, Jackson was the highest rated player on the ground in the fourth quarter. Sean Darcy, the 5th highest. And I think this is what they've just got to do. They don't blow teams out the water necessarily with the way they play. They grind teams down with their style and their system. And I think they've just got to continue to back themselves in because it will be a grind. We've spoken about the other finals, in particular the Adelaide-Collingwood final. I think this will be something similar. It's a stoppage game, isn't it, King? Let's be honest. It's a midfield battle with what Anderson, Rowell and Miller have got versus Sarong, Young and Brayshaw. So if they can get on top, it might not be early. They're going to have their hands full with the 2 superstars from Gold Coast. But if they can just continue to chip away and wear them down late, I think that's how they can get the job done.
Finals are chaos. So you've got to win the ball on the ground. The uncontested mark game for me disappears. So that's been my criticism. Why play a game that's going to disappear in finals? So if you can do all this, if your hunt is strong, you'll win finals. So that's been the critique and that's been the criticism. But you're right. They've got all the tools. Their list wants for nothing. I mean, they've got probably the nominal rising star. We've talked all year about the rucks and you've just shown the numbers. Their back line is just in ripping condition and in good form. And their forward line, led by Tracy and the wild card in Bolton, well, you don't need much more than that.
So what about that word you mentioned at the start, trust? So they've earned the right now. You trust Fremantle?
Yeah, I think so. I think they've shown all year now. They've got the resilience and the character, come from behind wins. The win against Bulldogs, I think, would have franked that as well. Not many people gave them a chance. So I think they're just going along nicely. And now they just need to make sure they don't get stage fright at home in a final, get the job done and see if they can get through to the second week.
What about 20 mil? What does that do to Gold Coast and their chances?
20 mil of rain.
There's rain.
Yeah,
well, it's expected.
I thought they were signing another player, 20 mil. They get during the ad break. Look, I think it helps them. You're right. There's going to be tension on both sides of the fence here. Tension, Fremantle expected to win. $1.50 favourites. Gold Coast Suns, first final. So there's going to be tension. If it just stays close deep in that final term, who knows?
Yep. I'm anticipating the big slug over there in Fremantle, 20 mil.
And you're confident your Hawks?
Yeah, I am. I was here last week. What did I say last week?
Yeah.
I said
You've already planned out the path to the grand final.
Well, you got to have a road. You got to have an exit plan, Joey. No, very confident they can go up to NG and went and watched them live at training. They're pretty sharp yesterday, so look out, Adam Kingsley. Joey, well done. Enjoy the final series. Kicks off tomorrow night for you boys. You'll be over there in Adelaide for the first qualifying final at Adelaide Oval, Adelaide and Collingwood. All the action live from 6:30 on Fox Footy.